Okay, Scraft fans, I have got another match for you from the opening round of the Novice Tournament. This is Biggels versus Miko, or Miko, I'm not sure. I'm going to go with Miko. Anyway, this is Biggels playing Terran in the left of Disco Bloodbath, and Miko playing Protoss down in the right. Top left corner, we've got the production tab up, and we can see what's going on there. Pylon coming down to the Protoss, and hopefully something depot being built for our Terran player, and gas. Look, so an unusual setup to go gas first before you've even got a barracks. It's pretty uncommon. Sometimes as a Terran player you'll go depot and you drop the gas straight away, and it doesn't really slow you down in terms of getting your barracks up and running, as we can see happening here. So, you know, that might be something that a reasonably experienced player might do. They might cook gas first and they put 3 into gas so that when the barracks finishes up, they've got a Reaper that they can go harassing with, because you'll have 50 gas for that Reaper. But I'm surprised to see it at this early stage of the Novice Tournament, that gas first build. And given that there's only one SCV in it, I would question the point of that. But anyway, some gas being mined, SCVs being built, and these are the important things. You know, early in the game, it is just so important that you're constantly building workers to get your economy up and running. Strange place to build a depot. Don't know about that. Common enough to build a proxy building on the other side of the map is Terran, but it's rarely a depot. Yeah, I was saying about getting that economy up and going. A common feature of the Novice Tournament isn't so much getting the money as spending the money. Tends to be where people fall down. So we do have a Reaper in production. Yeah, so you know, it is important to continuously build workers so that you get a lot of income, but it is equally important to make sure that you can spend that money. So you know, if you've only got 1 barracks or something and you've got like 3 bases, you don't need a second base if you've only got 1 barracks, because you can't possibly spend the money fast enough. So it's important that you match your growth in economy with a growth in production. So you know, you don't stop building workers until you're like fully saturated on 3 bases. But as that income starts to go up, you know, always keep an eye on how much minerals you've got. When you're playing the game, it's up in the top right of the screen. Have a glance at those minerals, and if you find that you're gaining minerals, that the minerals are building up, well then you need more production. You need to build more barracks, you need to build factories, you need to build other ways to spend that money. So here in Protoss land, oh look, it's a bunker. I have no idea what's going on here. This is not something you see every day. What I might have expected, you know, sometimes you can proxy a factory here, and you can float it up, land it in the corner in the hope your opponent doesn't see it, and actually build a widow mine and get that widow mine into the mineral line here pretty early. Other than that, you know, proxying buildings as a Terran, unless you're going for an absolute sort of all-in cheese where you're going to proxy a couple of barracks and rush very early, it's a bit weird to be seeing this setup. Anyway, our Protoss player, as we can see, has built a couple of defensive photon cannons. I'd love to have seen those done here, so that you're in a position where you can defend your natural expansion rather than up in here. Yeah, this is a little bit of a pessimistic location for these, isn't it? Somewhat pessimistic. You're kind of expecting that your opponent is going to get all the way up into your main base. I'm not opposed to having cannons in the main base, but in general, if I'm playing against a Terran, maybe I've got one somewhere at the back here, so that if a drop comes in, the Marines can't just have free reign over the worker line. You know, there'll be a cannon there that you can focus on the medevac with or whatever, or will just buy you time until your units can get there. Twilight Console finished up. Not seeing any research coming from that, but that Twilight Console does allow you to upgrade things like your zealots. A little concerned that there just isn't much production here for the Protoss. Only now we're getting some more gateways going on. So, you know, our Protoss player, we can see here, has got a reasonable income, and is spending most of that just on structures at the minute. But you know, once this expansion base comes up and starts mining, his income's going to double effectively. And what are you going to spend that money on when you've only got that 1 gateway? So glad to see another couple of gates coming down. Looks like Biggels is ready to move about, so we'll keep an eye on that. Pleasing to see that there are several barracks here at home, so production is looking good. A little bit supply blocked there at present. All these idle SCVs worry me a little bit. There's a lot of SCVs just standing about doing nothing, and you want to get those back to work. As soon as they're finished building stuff, you can send them back to work. When you're playing Terran, once an SCV has started a building, so like this one, you can just grab that SCV and right click on the mineral patch, and the SCV will automatically then go and mine the minerals once it's finished. Alternatively, you can even shift click, so you can hold shift, you can grab an SCV, hit B, hit S, plant a depot, and then right click the minerals, and you queues up the orders basically holding shift. So the SCV will go and do the building, and then it'll go back to work. Useful things. As Protoss, it's easier to not have idle workers standing about, because they don't have to take time to build the buildings. They just plant a building, and you can send them straight back to work, and the buildings continue to work in. So Twilight Console, one of the things it allows you to do is to get this building, the Templar Archives, which allows you to warp in Templars, and Templars are very good units. They have this storm ability that needs to be researched, which costs energy. So if you've got some Templars, you can kind of cast like a sort of lightning. It's called a side storm. It's like a lightning storm that does sort of area effect damage to lots of stuff. Now, these Marines are coming in here, running past this cannon and straight up into the men. So, and there was me mocking the cannon placement in the men, but it turns out that's exactly where you wanted to put some cannons. Who knew? So those Marines not doing fantastically well, not sure about just running straight past this stuff while getting shot, and I'm not sure about waiting here next to this cannon. So 6 kills on that cannon. This one must have a couple of kills as well from the Reapers, and all in all it looked like the Protoss handled that pretty well. Wasn't the best managed fight I've ever seen. Just walking those units in like that is a bit suicidal. Look, these guys are quickly going to how painful that is. And those units are on a move coming over there, so they weren't really doing any shooting, and in fact the Marines didn't do any shooting until they got to about here, and that whole time they were taking damage. So that helped to make that fight look particularly one-sided. Protoss units like Stalkers. A Stalker is much better than a Marine, but do bear in mind a Stalker costs quite a lot more than a Marine. So a Marine costs 50 minerals and 0 gas, whereas Stalkers are, I think, 125 minerals and 50 gas. So, a Stalker is, well, given that gas is always scarce compared to minerals, a Stalker is roughly 4 times the value of a Marine. So expect, if you see your opponent to have 4 Stalkers, expect to need 16 Marines to take that on, because in terms of army value, 16 Marines and 4 Stalkers are about the same. These are the Templars coming out, and Storm is finished. So these little dudes can be absolutely lethal. They don't start off with enough energy to drop a Storm, but they will build that energy up pretty quickly, and were this Protoss army to move out across the map, by the time they got to this other side of the map, they'd have enough energy for Storm. So Marines are building 2 at a time. There's still some Reapers building, and these Reapers, toward the late game, Reapers aren't really that good a unit. They're good units for sort of scouting. They're very fast units. They're good units for a little bit of light harass in the early game. Toward the late game, they're a bit useless because they just don't have that high DPS, and they're very, very squishy. So they just die easily. So yeah, if you are playing Terran, certainly by all means build a Reaper or 2 in the early game, send them into your opponent's base, muck about, try and kill a few workers if you can, have a look around, get out, generally annoy your opponent with them. But toward the mid to late game, just stop building Reapers. They don't really serve a purpose. Marauders, on the other hand, are good units. Marauders are tough, they're armoured units. You do need the tech lab to build those Marauders. But they're very good units indeed. They're chunky and they're hard to kill. So if you are going to go for a barracks style, that's definitely what you want. You want Marines and mix in some Marauders to sort of take shots to the face and generally be badasses. Yeah, the Ghost Academy is also a good choice when you're playing against Protoss. You do need to build some ghosts to go with it, and those ghosts again would come from barracks with an attached tech lab. The ghosts are spellcasters, although they do also just attack and shoot. But importantly, they can cast a spell called an EMP, which, since Protoss units all have shields, the EMP is particularly good because it just removes shields from the Protoss units. It also removes energy from any other spellcasters. So if you drop EMPs on this, things like this Archons are almost entirely shield. They're 350 shield, 10 health. So a couple of EMPs on an Archon heavy army does absolutely magic. These sentries are spellcasters, can pop guardian shields, can pop force fields. One EMP on those and they can no longer do that. Again, the Templars that can drop the storms that are very, very damaging to Marines. The storms do AoE, so very effective damage, and therefore they're particularly good against light units like Marines. Again, one EMP on that and it becomes just a bit for a bit. So it doesn't look like the Terran army has responded yet. If we look at the supplies, it's a bit in favour of the Protoss here, but in a defensive position at the top of this ramp, there's no reason why this Terran army couldn't take this on. There go the Storms on top of the Hellions, not sure about that. Storm on these Marines would have been the better choice. This Ghost needs to get the EMPs down here, get rid of the Guardian shields, it would take a lot of sheets off the Archon, but in fact the Ghost isn't doing anything, just shooting his little rifle there. Ghosts, third rifle is reasonably effective. They don't have that high DPS, so really in the fight the Ghost needs to be used as a spellcaster. Yeah, so that didn't go fantastically well. As a kind of general top tip, you always want to avoid fighting on a ramp. Fight, position your stuff at the top of the ramp, so this has to be in the choke point of the ramp. You don't want to be on the ramp, just as a general rule. So that's what the storms look like, and you can see that they're pretty effective at wrecking stuff. So it doesn't look like there's much left for the Terran. There's only it on the supply, and that's in these sort of scattered Marines that are about the best and the stuff that he's building. So there isn't really anything that can do with these remaining Protoss units. It does look like Miko is just going to egg them through here for the win. There's Void Rays coming in from all angles. He's throwing down cheeky storms on top of single units at this stage. So all we're waiting for really is the GG. Yeah, so, good early signs that both of these players have had a bit of practice to know how to get an economy up and know a little bit about how to macro. Some work perhaps with the Terran player on sort of unit composition choices and that sort of thing. I'm seriously hoping that the sound of this cast comes out okay, because from where I'm sitting, the game volume seems to be very, very challenging. I can't even hear myself. All I can hear is that stuff getting exploded and dying. To be honest, it's getting a bit annoying. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it off. Yeah, anywho. Perhaps some work on the composition for the Terran so that he's got a better selection of units and a little bit of work on the way that he engages, because you don't want to walk those units in past stuff that is shooting you in general, because you want to shoot back, don't you? You want to shoot back. Alrighty, where's the GG? Is there going to be one? There is not. GG.